Welcome into Vandy on SI. I'm Joey Dwyer. He's Graham Bacco. Here from Bryant-Denny Stadium in Tuscaloosa, where felt like it was there for the taking for Vanderbilt this afternoon. 14-7 in the first half. You had Cedric Alexander with the big run. Vanderbilt forcing Alabama's first turnover of the year. And then, Graham, the second half happened. 9 rushing yards for Vanderbilt against an Alabama defense that really, I think, is able to be exposed against the run. And 16 points from Alabama, 0 from Vanderbilt. A 30-14 final, and a whole lot of problems for Vanderbilt in the second half. Graham, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, their second half offense just could not get anything going. And we asked Clark Lee about it. He said he'd have to look at the film, but it was sort of a mix of what Alabama, with their defensive adjustments, especially on the defensive line, and then Vanderbilt just could not establish a rhythm and just could not find the space. Maybe they would find a hole here or there, but it would close up pretty quickly. And I would say you've got to credit Alabama's defense on that with making adjustments at halftime. But because, look, Vanderbilt, their offense in the first half, especially running the ball, I mean, they were clicking, and they were on pace to have a great game, at least rushing. And then I think James Smith coming into the second half for the Alabama defense, I got to say that probably did have definitely an effect, considering the big difference in rushing yards between the two halves. But again, the second half offense just could not get a rhythm established. You would have a first down here, and then it would be 3 and out, and then you're punting, and Alabama gets the ball back. And that was my biggest takeaway. Is they just could not establish a rhythm that they had in the first half.
Sure. Graham, to me, it felt like the antithesis of the Clark Lee tenure, where you're always focused on how do they overcome a talent gap, how do they overcome that by winning in the margins and doing the little things right. When they've won, it's been because not only are they more talented, but also because they're doing the little things right. Today, I didn't feel, I mean, obviously there was a talent gap. I didn't feel like it was all that apparent when we're out there watching. Obviously, the receiver-corner difference between Alabama and Vanderbilt was probably the biggest thing, but other than that, I thought Vanderbilt was capable of hanging around and maybe winning this game. Problem, it turned over twice in the red zone. I think it went away from the run at times when it probably should have honed in on the run and trying to maybe establish itself that way. Most of all, you just can't turn it over twice in the red zone against Alabama on the road. You're not going to win like that, and maybe Vanderbilt can get away with that against Virginia Tech or against Charleston Southern or someone along those lines. Even Diego Pavia said you can't do that. Expect to win against Alabama. He put the game on himself. Said he was pressing a little bit in the second half, and it's hard to disagree with him right now.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head right there. You can't go 1 for 3 in scoring opportunities in the red zone, turn the ball over twice, and then expect to win the game. I mean, that was one of the biggest differences in the game. Those are opportunities where you could score 3 or possibly 7 points, and you come away with 0 on 2 out of the 3 times. And and look, even if they were, I guess you would have to get 1 touchdown with it, given the score. But even if they come away with a couple touchdowns there instead of turning over the ball, then it's a totally different game. But like you said, they totally show that they were capable of competing here. They did not look like they were out of their league. They did not look like it was a David versus Goliath type of difference there. They totally showed, sort of neutralized, I guess you could say, the talent difference between the two schools and the two rosters. And Vanderbilt they'd have the fight, they did have the confidence coming in, and I think the start of the game to me was very important. Vanderbilt could not have come in, gone 3 and out, and then Alabama's up 10-0 or 14-0 next thing you know. No, they did a great job establishing themselves to this, starting the game by forcing a Ty Simpson turnover deep into plus territory. And then you also had Cedric Alexander's 65-yard run. So I thought Vanderbilt did a great job establishing themselves and showing, like, hey, we're here to compete. You're not going to just shove us around. Like, you have to earn a win today.
I thought Vanderbilt was definitely good early. Here's the column, though. I'll save you guys a read. Vanderbilt is good enough to where we should dignify them by talking about how poorly they played at times today. This is no longer a moral victory program. Diego Pavia said
he doesn't even know. He doesn't even know what moral victories are.
He doesn't know what that is.
Right.
And it's, in a way, for me, it's time to stop praising that and say, all right, you don't want moral victories?
Right.
You lost by 16 points and you turned it over twice in the red zone. You had a few drops on 3rd down. I think it's time to start evaluating this team like it wants to be a college football playoff team. And so often when we've lost, when we I guess, evaluated a Vanderbilt road loss to a team like this, it's been about, wow, it really competed and all those things. I don't think that those guys are feeling that tonight. They think they're still the best team in college football.
Yeah.
And I think the only way to treat them fairly is by talking about the difference between what they would have done to really establish themselves as SEC title contenders versus what they did tonight, which still kind of puts them in the same position they were in a week or two ago before all the buzz kind of built for this game. We know they're a good team, and I think to properly respect them, we talk about, I guess, the deficiencies today, because I think that's important in this game. But yeah, there were plenty of them. I think the coverage was poor a lot of times with the cornerback room, and I don't know that enough's been made of that. Stanford Steve yesterday told us that was the matchup he was watching, and I always thought there was a big talent differential in that room specifically. Obviously, Marcel Height had a few poor plays. Jalen Lackey fell down 20 yards down the field. I think Jordan Matthews had a bad one. Those are the types of plays that lose you games. I think that's where the talent differential was big enough, and then you're just looking at the offense and saying they did too many things poorly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and look, Ty Simpson, there are a few times where, it looked like he was going to take off running, and all of a sudden, you got someone in the secondary leaves a receiver open, and next thing you know, it's a first down or even a touchdown, like we saw with Ryan Williams back there, finding himself wide open in the end zone. But, you also talk about, like, look, if you want to be taken, seriously, you also have to be looked at through a critical lens as well, right? And so you have to talk about the red zone, the second half offense, and just some early mistakes that that they just could not overcome, or I guess maybe the second half mistakes that they just could not overcome. But I mean, again, Richie Hoskins said it. He still feels like they're a great team, and there is no pouting. Like I said, they're not feeling sorry for themselves. They're not feeling depressed or anything like that. They knew that they had this one. They had an opportunity to win this game, and they competed well, and they could have won this game had it not been for those mistakes that we've listed off. And again, they got a bye week to rest and sort of prepare for LSU, but again, the mistakes certainly were costly for sure.
Sure, Graham. I look at two stats that I think really propelled Vanderbilt to beating Alabama last year, and one of these like the back of your hand. Yeah, time of possession. Yep. Read me the stat.
30. I'll get the exact time. It was, where is it up there? Oh, 37 minutes, 23 seconds to 22:37. So, 37 to 22 minutes, 37 to 23, whatever.
Yeah, Vanderbilt dang near doubled Alabama last year.
I was going to say, they sort of flipped the script where Vanderbilt had 40 and Alabama had 20. They basically flipped the script almost the exact same times as well. And I noticed, like, Alabama is midway through the third quarter. They had already surpassed the time of possession from last year.
Right.
So, Alabama, like Diego Pavia said, Alabama won the same way that Vanderbilt won a year ago. Just controlling the clock, converting on third downs when needed, and just chewing up the clock. And I think you got to point to that 8.5 minute drive that with the field goal that made it 23-14 and made it a 2-score game. Sort of basically put the game out of range.
Yeah, that was basically the dagger.
Yeah, 8.5 minutes. I mean, that was at that time in the game. That was a great chunk of the time left that they just chewed away. And I mean, credit to the Alabama offense converting and going down the field when needed. They just got their run game, established their run, and Vanderbilt defensively just could not put a stop to it.
Sure. Oftentimes, Vanderbilt's talent gap has magnified the mistakes. Yeah. I think the time of possession tonight was the thing that magnified the 2 red zone turnovers, and what Clark Lee said were a few drops on conversion downs. Eli Stowers had 2. Junior Sherrill had 1 on one that he should have had a first down on as well. Here's the second stat. Turnovers. Yeah. And it's a tale as old as time.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt has purposely been a little bit more aggressive with pushing the ball down the field and maybe being a little more prone to turnovers this year, and that hasn't hurt it until today. I think that's generally been a good thing for it, and it's something they're probably going to continue to do. Last year, though, didn't turn it over, forced the pick 6, and that was a huge play in that game. And then last year, Miles Capers had the strip sack, another huge play in that game.
Yeah.
Those are 2 plays that flipped the script, and Vanderbilt didn't turn it over. Those are the 2 reasons they won that game: the time of possession and the turnovers. And they almost didn't win that game. Still, they had to be perfect to do it. This team didn't have to be perfect to do it, as we saw today. But man, those are costly. When you turn it over 3 times, 2 of them in the red zone. I think we're going to say red zone turnovers a million times in the show, but it's valuable to say because that's why they lost the game. And then when you consistently don't have your offense on the field, I thought Vanderbilt moved the ball honestly okay today.
Yeah.
I don't think that was the reason they lost the game. I thought their offense was good enough to justify giving a solid grade to in the post game, but just it wasn't on the field a whole lot. And when it was on the field and had nice drives, they ended via interception and via fumble. That's the stuff that loses you a game like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, they just could not establish a rhythm in the second half. Again, they would get a first down and then they would just go 3 and out. So it's like they couldn't really get a drive established even after like a first couple good plays. And then Alabama just sort of got off the field defensively, put their offense out there, and right after that, Alabama's offense just sort of took over. And again, with their clock management, it was great for Alabama in terms of clock management, and again, just the turnovers, right?
Yeah, it was a surgical operation by Ty Simpson. I thought
It was.
Man, I've seen a lot of quarterbacks play against Vandy. That might have been the most impressive showing,
Yeah.
and maybe it wasn't Ty Simpson's best outing even.
Right.
Man, he just distributed it so well, and
Yeah,
they have good receivers, but he deserves some credit too, as does Alabama as a whole. But yeah, it was a game that Vanderbilt I think would like to have back in a lot of ways for a lot of different reasons. Again, though, it comes in the press conference, and Richie Hoskins, Corday Sidner, and Diego Pavia all essentially say they think they're the best team in the country, and that this was an uncharacteristic loss that doesn't necessarily derail a lot of their aspirations. So just know that's how Vanderbilt's moving forward, but certainly a game in which, again, Reese Davis said it yesterday, like maybe it didn't mean Vanderbilt was going to make the playoffs if they won it, but man, did it mean that it was going to be in the way of a lot of teams that wanted to be there. Now I think Vanderbilt's going to have to fight a little bit. It's going to see some adversity. It hasn't yet. We talked earlier this week, though, it's not the most important game in program history because they're not dead. They still have a lot to go the rest of the way. Diego Pavia mentioned they got a talented LSU team, and he'll be better in that game. I don't see any reason to declare this team dead or say that
no question.
the season is derailed. And I think that's the silver lining coming out of it, that maybe they learned a thing or two about talking before the game and maybe about some of the things that they have to avoid doing down the stretch if they want to be a playoff team.
Yeah, and another thing that I took away from this game is just the way that Vanderbilt competed and hung in with Alabama for such a long time. I think if you go back, look at the rest of Vanderbilt's schedule for the second half of the season now, I think you got to go through each game and say, oh, wait, hold on. If we were able to do this at Alabama, then think about what we could do against these teams. Like, all these games, I think, suddenly become, you have a much better feeling about each. And maybe you don't think you win every single one of them. Obviously, you still got to go to Texas and Tennessee, play LSU. But I feel like when you look at those three, and especially seeing what happened to Texas today, losing at Florida, oh my goodness, like, I think you do feel a little more confidence in your ability to either compete or win those games. And Vanderbilt, like you said, they're not dead. A 10-2 SEC team, no question, makes the playoff. 9-3, that's where it really gets very tricky. Probably going to have to hope for a lot of payoff at that point. But again, you go down the line of Vanderbilt's next final 6 games. I think you do feel a lot better, a lot more confident in terms of their possibilities going to a 9-win or maybe even a 10-win team.
Sure, Graham. Certainly a day I think Vanderbilt would like to have back. Again, though, not one that derails any of its hopes. We kind of pinpointed this as a loss heading into the year anyway. Obviously, it's going to go home disappointed. We were on the sideline and saw a lot of guys who were hanging their heads. Didn't see a whole lot of helmet slamming or anything like that, though. I think they know they've got a lot ahead of them still. Time to see if they can do it. They've got a week to, as Diego Pavia said, get healthy. He says they've got some guys banged up. But, from Bryant Denny Stadium, I'm Joey Dwyer. He's Graham Bacco. We'll be with you soon. And thank you guys for watching. God bless. Big rest of the way for Vanderbilt, so make sure to stay on Vandy on SI. Subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk soon. Peace.
See ya.